you can grow to be a millionaire in all 6 aspects of health. Every week, we share tips to improve your mental, social, spiritual, financial, intellectual, and your physical health. Today, we're focusing on your physical health and the topic of calories. How can calories, and learning all about them, help improve your physical health? We will find out. We've got 3 awesome guests waiting backstage to give us 3 tips on how to do this. If you have never seen a Millionaires Are Made episode, I'm happy that you finally made it here. This is the show built on the fundamental belief that every person you meet knows something that you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. In the spirit of authenticity and to remove as much bias or persuasion as possible, I do not talk about the tips or advice to our guests so that when they come on and tell you their tip and their advice, it comes straight from them, their own life journey, and is as authentic as possible. So we're going to have an awesome show with 3 guests with their life experiences teaching us on how to improve our physical health with calories. Audience, thank you so much for watching. We love it. We definitely, obviously, are doing this for you. Please, we'd love to engage. If you ask questions in the chat, we monitor it and we will ask them live and put our guests on the spot. So feel free to ask any questions or comments. And we also very much ask that you like, subscribe, stars, click, share, whatever it is on your social media that you're watching us. Help us out and support us. It'd be great. I do want to do some shout outs for followers on Facebook. We got Nikki Hillazan. Thank you so much for following us. Instagram, we have Mia. TikTok, we got Travel with Linda. And on YouTube, we have Gali Hugman. Thank you all so much for following and helping us and supporting us. If you want to be a guest on this show, we are dropping the link right now. I know you've got something you can share, and I know that you would be awesome to come give your expertise to the world and help us all grow together. Please click that link, sign up as a guest. And if there is something on your brain or in your life that you're currently going through that might be a bit of a struggle, let us know. We would love to have topic ideas. We always need new topics to go and build our shows. We will go out and find 3 awesome guests that will give us some advice and hopefully get you through that little hump that you're going through. And if you are going through a hump and you need some advice, I love doing coaching. I do free coaching sessions, free growth consultations. That link's being dropped right now. Feel free to hit me up and we can chat about what you might be going through and hopefully work our way through it. And without further ado, we are now going to, we have to announce some of our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Sarah Jones. Sarah is amazing. She helps people master their personal and business finances to build stable foundations for their future while she travels the U.S. full-time in her RV with her husband. She is amazing at getting you out of debt and helping you with financial decisions for the future. Go check out Sarah Jones, link being dropped. Next up, we have Craig Satkovsky. He's amazing, super smart, a human behaviorist and a mentor, but he's really focused on helping entrepreneurs discover their true identity, purpose, and then using that to achieve growth in their business and their personal life. Craig's awesome, super smart. If you like intellect, go check him out now. We have Island Trail Adventures with Gali Pratt. Island Trail Adventures is an awesome hiking company here in St. Thomas. If you ever come to St. Thomas and you don't go on a hike with them, you are missing out. Gali is amazing, knows everything about the island, and you get to watch him hike in flip-flops up giant mountains on Rock City. He's awesome. He offers guided hikes through scenic Caribbean trails, blending stunning landscapes, rich history, and nature for an unforgettable journey. And our final sponsor here is Josh Perry. Josh is a resilient leader, he's a co-host on this show, inspiring others to overcome challenges with determination, guiding them to reach their full potential and achieve greatness. Check out the link and go follow Josh. Super smart guy. Awesome to have him. And without further ado, we are going to bring Samir out and learn about physical health and calories. Samir, tell us who you are.
Austin, man, it's a pleasure to be back. I was, I think, one of your first guests about a year ago, so it's really awesome to be joining you now. Listen, my name's
happy to have you back.
I'm Samir Dasani. I'm a health coach, and I'm also finishing a PhD in anthropology. I help people basically reverse autoimmune these days. That's my specialty, especially vitiligo, which is the autoimmune that I had, but anything, multiple sclerosis, lots of other things as well. And of course, health, nutrition, losing weight, all that good stuff too.
I love it. Samir, I do remember your last time. It was a great show. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I need your advice, though. I need to know if I wanted to improve my physical health with calories, what simple piece of advice would you give me?
Yeah. Can I say fucking ignore calories? Is that good advice? So listen, I think we
That's
need
great
I think we
advice.
need we need to fucking we need to just be a little bit precise in our language. A calorie is the amount of heat at the elevation of one atmosphere. So I can see you're right at sea level. So where you are, the amount of heat needed to raise 1 gram of water, 1 degree centigrade. That is a calorie. So in other words, calories are heat. When's the last time, Austin, you ate some heat? You're there in the hot sun. Can you eat that heat? You cannot, right? We eat food mass. Now, if you didn't want to eat the food mass, you could burn it. And if you burned it, so first you have to ignite it, then yes, you could generate heat from it. And so whenever we're talking about calories, we're talking about this really imperfect thing that happens in a machine called a bomb calorimeter. So you put water, you put food, you burn the damn food, you raise the temperature of the water, you calculate how much the temperature raised, and based on that calculation, you can say food had X amount of calories as potential energy. They're not actual calories, right? What they turn into the body is a completely different thing. Point number one. Point number two, calories are a really bad measure because there are things like, for example, plutonium. A gram of plutonium has about a bazillion calories. Does that mean if I eat a gram of plutonium, like I'm gonna, like, you might fucking glow in the dark? Like, I don't recommend it. But does that mean you never have to eat again because you got all the fucking calories of your life in 1 gram of plutonium? Of course not, right? So the first thing is, let's stop thinking along those lines. The way people practically use calories is in terms of limiting the amount of food they want to eat, for specific purposes, right? So if you have weight to lose, you might want to use a caloric system, quote unquote. It's not exactly calories, but limit food mass to lose weight. And that is also a stupid fucking idea. Why? Because we know study after study after study, people who lose the weight that way put it back on, because most of what we're burning, quote unquote burning, we don't burn calories either. That's a different story. We won't have time to get into it. But the energy that you're using through the day mostly is coming from the energy that is not related to exercise. It's not related to running. It's not related to moving. It's related to just keeping your heart beating. It's related to keeping your brain moving, right? It's called the basal metabolic rate. And when you limit your food, your body thinks you're a fucking idiot, thinks you can't hunt, thinks you can't get anything done. And so the body slows those things down. People who are on caloric restricted diets will know that your body temperature actually goes down. You feel colder, right? And when you're doing that, it actually now it's the case, if you go back to eating the number of calories, the same amount of food that you were before, you're going to actually gain weight, even though before you weren't gaining weight, you were just staying the same. So there's lots of reasons not to do this. If you're interested in actually losing weight, what I would say is fucking, first of all, just leave the calories alone. Don't touch that. But look into things that we know do not have the damaging effect of the BMR stuff. What are those things? Well, fasting is not a bad starting point. Fasting will always limit calories as well. So if you're a calorie fucking counter, if you're a Lane Norton guru, cool, you'll get it too. You'll limit your calories. Fasting is something to look into. Ketogenic diets is something to look into. Carnivore diets is something to look into. So there's a number of things. You could even do like vegan diets. Like I'm not dogmatic about this, but there's approaches that actually will increase your satiety, and will change your hormones and will actually make you function better, will make you a healthier human being without trying to count calories. Counting calories is about the stupidest thing you can do. And by the way, who are the people who have innovated what we know about counting? Again, they're not calories, but quote unquote calories. They're the bodybuilding community. They're people who are going on stage and really showing off their muscles and so on. Full credit to them. If that's their goal, I got no issue with it. But you should know that the average life expectancy of a bodybuilder is like maybe in their 40s, maybe. They all die young, because they've been tanking and they've been doing this weird stuff to their metabolism since they were teenagers. So, if someone says they want to be a bodybuilder, if my client comes to me and says they want to be a bodybuilder, I spend like I never talk people out of anything. I'm a carnivore keto person myself. If someone comes to me as a vegetarian, I have two very strict vegetarian clients right now. I don't try and talk them out of it. That's fine. But bodybuilding is the one thing I will try and talk you out of, because to me, that's like really, really dangerous and potentially life-threatening. So those are some basic thoughts. I'm sorry if that was too much of a rant, but this thing just pisses me off to no fucking end.
Okay, well, let's go and let's hear some of your background. Where did you learn this information from? Where'd your advice come from?
So I was a vegan back in my 20s, in my university days, and I thought that was, for a number of reasons, including health. But I tanked my health pretty badly. And later on, so I was vegan for about maybe 10 years. I was vegetarian for another 10. And when I started losing my eyesight because of vitamin A deficiency. I had really creaky joints. My vitiligo was out of control. My autoimmune disease was out of control. I went back to university. I went and started my PhD a couple of years ago, and I started looking up. My PhD is in anthropology, not nutrition. But I went to the medical library and I started reading every paper I could find on nutrition. And I was like, holy shit, people have been lying to me all this time. There's no evidence that vegetables are healthy. And we know that low carb diets have been effective for treating all these things, but for like 120 years, like the 1880s is where some of this research was done. So, or the early 1900s. So I got fucking pissed off, Austin. Like I got really angry, and I changed my own life in a matter of weeks. My vision came back. My autoimmune went away. My joints were fine. I lost the weight. Like fixing my own health was a matter of weeks. And then I got pissed off because I was like, if this is this easy, why can't other people do it too? And so that's when I did my training in nutrition and health coaching and so on. And now I help other people do it as well. But my biggest point of contention is that this is not hidden information. It's all fucking out there. And if you just use a little bit of common sense and brain cells, you don't have to do a PhD like I did. I mean, I went maybe took it to an extreme. There's things that everyone can do in their lives to get healthier. And maybe the first thing is ignoring everything you've heard from the gym bros. And maybe the second thing is like taking things you hear from your doctor with a grain of salt too, because I'm not, yeah, no one is talking about these things, but they're so fucking obvious.
Awesome, Samir. I love it. We're gonna have to get a gym bro on next time. We're gonna move. We're gonna move on and talk to Vicky real quick. Thank you so much for your enlightenment, and we'll bring you right back out in a second. All right, Vicky. Not a gym bro, but who are you?
Well, no, I am a bit of a gym bro, actually, but
Oh,
for
okay,
fun,
perfect.
just for fun. But actually, I did start off in the world of gyms and personal training and fitness instructing back in 1991, so quite a long time ago. But yeah, I was laughing my head off and just delighted to hear everything that Sammy had to say because I totally agree with him. Calories are something that is the reason why I do what I do, because I help people with disordered eating issues, anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, binge eating. And so, what are the things that they are doing that is actually exacerbating their issues? Counting darn calories. So, yeah, they are not my friend. A calorie burned is a calorie burned. As he explained, it's just a unit of energy, like a kilowatt is a unit of electricity. But a calorie eaten is not a calorie eaten. It's nutrition. It gives us something. And we need to look at all of the issues that go along with the food choices that we make in our body as individuals. So I'm not totally anti calorie counting for people to have some kind of way of getting an idea of what is going on and then what is they're putting into their bodies, because the majority of people haven't got a goddamn clue. So something like a tracking device, I think, can be a tool, but that's all it is, a tool to help you to have a little bit more knowledge. And then when you've found out what works for your body, ditch the tool. It's no longer useful.
Find out what works for your body, then ditch it. Well, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, tools are only as good as the person using them.
Yeah, and they
All
can
right.
get very addictive as well, because we
Yeah.
can then rule our lives by what a monitor or a tracking device is telling us. And hey ho, we're back into my realm of addiction. Not cool.
Not good. Vicky, if I want to improve my physical health with calories, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, I would agree that don't count the calories. But what I would say to you is ask your body what it wants and what it needs, because we are so good at reading information and being told somebody said this is good for you, but your body knows what it wants. So instead of thinking in terms of calories, start asking your body. And if you do any kind of muscle testing and you connect to your body, you'll know what it wants. If you feel heavy and you're falling asleep after eating certain foods, it's not a good idea to eat them. They probably don't suit you. If you feel energized and ready to rock and roll, then yeah, those foods are probably good for you. So start tuning in to what your body wants and needs and forget what your head is telling you.
I love it. All right. Well, let's see what you got to say, Vicky. Where on your life journey did you learn this information?
Well, yeah, my history was bulimia, anorexia, disordered eating, binge eating, alcohol addiction, you name it. I was the person who could tell you every calorie in every food at one point I knew without looking it up. And it caused serious problems because when you're trying to focus your life around energy in, energy out, and believing the madness that you can burn off calories through exercise, and that's a really good way of losing weight, by which I hate weight, by the way. If we're talking about body fat, aren't we? I don't know anybody who needs to lose weight. You chop an arm off, you've lost weight. Yeah. But
Come on.
I think we're talking about, when we're talking about weight, we're actually meaning losing body fat. And this is, again, language is important, and people are getting confused because we're using really sloppy language. Okay, weight is just like calories. It's just a number of something. Yeah, it's not what we want to do. When we're changing body shape and body composition, we're usually talking about increasing lean muscle tissue and decreasing fat tissue. Yeah, but when we start using terms like weight and calories, it's all wishy-washy, it's all messy, and people just get confused. So that's why I got into it. I was really confused. I was doing crazy things like stuffing my face with foods that I told myself were too high in calories and I shouldn't be eating, but I couldn't resist them. I didn't want to keep them in my body, so I got rid of them by throwing up, by exercising like an idiot. And after doing that for nearly 20 years, gets a bit wearing and a bit tiresome, and I decided it was time to change. So when I decided that enough was enough, the help that I needed, the information that I wanted to help me was not available. So I did kind of what Stamir did. I made it my business to find out about the gut-brain connection, about how the body works neurologically, physiologically, biochemically, epigenetics, you name it. I looked into it so that I could find out about changing habits, about understanding addiction, but also really understanding what food does within our bodies and, crucially, our brain, and how it affects the way we think, as well as the way we behave, feel, and actually converse and commune with others. So that's why I do what I do, because I couldn't find the information I wanted. So I found it out for myself and devised a method to help people.
I love it. Awesome, Vicky. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest. Let him get situated real quick. All right, he's ready. All right, Don, who are you?
Well, this is going to be fun because I probably object to both of the previous guests. So this is going to be interesting. So I, 27-year Air Force veteran, 9-year corporate, 7-year entrepreneur. I help people live their best life. As a career transition coach, I'm helping people find that job that energizes them, that they really enjoy. And as a volunteer, like with Leukemia Lymphoma Society, I'm helping them raise money so that we can help the kids and the young adults who are getting blood cancer, who aren't having an opportunity to live their best life. So we give them either, they're doing research to try to find cures, or they're giving things to be able to make them comfortable as they go through the process, because it's painful. But everybody deserves an opportunity at their best life. And father, 42 years, well, husband of 42 years, father of 3, all millennials, and just loving grandfather of 4. So just loving that phase of life.
I love it, Don. I love it. All right, well, let's hear your advice then. If I
Yeah.
wanted to improve my physical health with calories, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Yeah, I think tracking is important. I get everything Samir and Vicky are saying, what is a calorie and all that kind of stuff, but you have to have something to measure where you're at and where you want to go, and something that people can understand. I hate to say it, you get too technical, and people just eyes roll back, they give up and they walk away. So calories and macro about fats, carbs, protein is something that most people can get their hands on and try to track. Um, if you don't do something, it's like what Vicky said a minute ago. What does your body want? Well, I know what my body wants. It wants cookies and cakes. It loves it. It tastes good. I will be sedentary. Is that the right word? I'll sit in front of the TV. That's what my body wants. It doesn't want to get up and go walk or run or lift weights or do all the things that I need to do to maintain the muscle, build the muscle, do that kind of stuff. I was in my medical with my new medical doctor yesterday, and it's like, man, you got a great heart. Your lungs got great capacity. Well, I've been working out habit-wise, discipline every morning for probably 40 some years.
What do you do
Walking.
typically for a workout?
Well, it varies. About 20 minutes of aerobics, walking on the treadmill because my knees are too bad to run anymore, and then a lot of calisthenics, yoga, and then I get into this thing with a muscle booster app just to try to do body weight and sometimes weight resistance exercises, and it's been really good. And I do agree with Vicky. It's about how your body feels. But when I feel good is when I've you know the pants feel right. I feel good about myself mentally, those kind of things. And that comes from me tracking. I've used MyFitnessPal. I'm jumping into the next part, but I've used MyFitnessPal to help track those.
Nice. So you told us a little bit about your past. Tell us a little more where you learned where you learned your piece of advice.
Yeah, two things. One, on day 3 of officer training school, I got told that I weighed in at weight. Now that kind of shocked me, right? Because when I left Milwaukee, I was 4 pounds under my maximum weight. But what happened was, while I lost 2 pounds, they dropped my maximum weight 6 pounds. So I had a choice. The next morning at 7:30, I was going to weigh in. I could either weigh in at or over and go home, or I could weigh in under. And and I agree with the piece that was binging right there, man. I didn't eat a thing for 24 hours because they were not going to kick me out, but that was unhealthy. So I went on a piece of learning over life about how to manage those things. And over the last 40 years, it's been a progression of cutting out different foods that don't serve me and understanding my calories. So in 2014, I was on a project up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and we were working 18-hour days, and we wouldn't get done till 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and we'd go out to dinner and have burgers and fries and beer. And so the wrong time of day, the wrong kind of foods, way too much. And no matter, I was getting up at 5 in the morning, just like I talked about a minute ago, and doing the insanity workout for over an hour. I mean, my heart was pounding hard, and I gained like 20 pounds. I gained 20 pounds. So I grabbed MyFitnessPal and I started tracking what I was eating and realizing, we said in the pre-show, all of a sudden I realized that if I went to a Mexican restaurant and had the chips and salsa, which I love, that was 1,000 calories. I'm only authorized 2,000 a day to maintain. So boom, even before I got the enchilada, which is another 1,000, just the dinner was killing me. So I had to have some place to start to be able to measure where I wanted to go to. And so when I started MyFitnessPal, a buddy of mine on that team told me about it. I started tracking, and the weight just started falling off. I had gone from a 38-inch to a 40 plus. My pants were all tight. I needed to buy new pants. Well, guess what? Within a year, my wife said, you need to buy new pants, because I went from a 38 to a 35-inch waist. As soon as I started tracking it and just measuring it and still working out every day, the weight just started coming off, and I started feeling good about myself again. And I disagree with throwing the tool away, because you will go back to what your body wants. I go back to cookies. I love sweets. I just went last Friday because my mother-in-law had a birthday. So I bought her a little nothing but bunt. So I bought myself one, and then they gave me one. So now I'm eating, and I'll go over a couple of days. Take me about 4 or 5 days to each one. So it's about 100 calories. But that's my management technique to manage the calories, because eating a 600 calorie bundt cake in one day just throws everything off. Again, I've got to have some place to start, and that tool, MyFitnessPal or Fitbit, gives you that tool to manage to get to where you want to go.
Awesome. All right, Don, we're going to bring everyone out, and we've got a question from the audience to ask all three. Here comes Vicky and Samir. All right, guys, we have a question from the audience. In what ways can focusing solely on calorie counting lead to negative health behaviors?
I can have a go, although I know this is Vicky's area of expertise. So maybe I'll go first and then let Vicky take over.
Sure.
So listen, I think first of all I got to respond to Dawn, which is related to this. So I think for some people you can actually use apps and limiting and so on to actually find some kind of like a happy middle, right? I think we need to be clear on why that works. It works not because of the calories. Let's be very clear about that. It works because when you lower the amount of food that you're taking in, you lower the insulin response. One of the ways in which you can insulin is, think of it as the fat storage hormone. There are many ways to lower your insulin response to food. One way is to just lower the amount of food that you're eating, and when you do that, it works. By the way, what I do to lose weight is also works. What I do when I want to lose weight, I eat everything that I'm eating in the day, plus I eat an extra stick of butter. Butter contains a certain fatty acid called butyric acid, which is very good for getting rid of basically the fat on the body, right? So that's how I lose weight. I lose weight by adding calories, not by subtracting.
Hold on, let's
calories.
stop right there, Samir.
Yeah.
To lose weight, you eat more butter. Now,
That's correct.
Is this it's not margarine, or like tell us
No,
more
it has
about
to be
what
100%.
type of butter?
I mean, the freshest butter you can get. I mean, in South Africa we have very good dairy, very good butter. The point is, the butter contains, again, this is all getting back to the insulin response and so on. Butter contains a certain kind of fatty acid, butyric acid, short chain saturated fatty acid, which responds to the hormones in the body, right? And it will tell your hormones, holy crap, we got lots of energy coming in. Butyric acid has to be burned. It can't be easily stored. So we're going to burn this, and all that fat that's on your body, we're going to burn that too. You're teaching your body how to burn fat by eating fat, and you change your body composition. I mean, I was when I did that experiment, it's a little bit rough eating a stick of butter every day. I'm going to be honest; like it's not the most pleasant thing in the world to do. But when I was doing that, I was in some of the best shape of my life. This was a few months ago, right? So that's just something there. Now, why would we? To get back to the question of how this can lead to negative behaviors, when people obsess about anything, right? We have this clean eating phenomenon. We have this like beating yourself up kind of phenomenon. And it's really hard to make any kind of progress when you're doing that. So for some people, and Dawn may be this person, using the calorie tracker app can be a healthy behavior, can be a healthy tool to help you hit your macros, to help you hit whatever, to help you hit your strategy, whatever it is. Fine, agreed. For some people, including many of my clients, like I don't want them to have a scale in their house. I want them to throw away the scale, please, because they obsess about it. And it's just not healthy. Now I can have a scale. It's okay for me. I don't like the calorie tracker app. I don't wear a smartwatch anymore because it just bothers me too much. Like I get too obsessed about it. I have this OCD stuff that happens with it, right? So you have to know who you are and what the tools are that are going to get you to where you want to go. And being overly obsessive about this stuff is really not the way to go.
Yeah, there's one thing Samir and I agree on, which is it's got to be, and I think this is what Vicky said, is you've got to be to you and what you want and how you react, right? Your personality. For me as a C disc personality, I need that analysis, the routine, the discipline. So
yeah,
but
I
you're right.
think you've got a really good point there, and it is a tool, and I agree it's very useful, and I think people should have a general understanding of just what foods contain a hell of a lot of energy, and kind of what type of foods are they versus ones that don't contain very much. I think that's a general knowledge that we should have. Just like I also believe that we should know what our blood pressure is. I also think that we should know what our body temperature is, but the majority of people don't have a clue. And so is it a tool that I think has its uses? Absolutely. But to answer the question, why could it potentially be harmful? Well, what it can do is it can teach people to override their own hunger cues and their own full up cues. And that is something that is, I think we're already doing that as a society anyway. We're teaching people to snack between meals just because, well, everybody is. And it's there. And it's got nothing to do with whether we actually are hungry or our body needs nutrients. Mm-hmm. The other thing as well is that a lot of people just look at the calorie value. And I know a lot of these tools give you much more than that. But the majority of people don't scroll past the calorie information and actually look at the nutritional information, which means that a lot of people can be eating the, in quotes, right amount of calories to maintain their weight, but they are nutrient deficient, which means that is setting them up for all kinds of issues. The other thing is just counting calories. It tells you nothing about, as Samir has said, what's going on with your insulin, with your glucose, with your inflammation, etc., etc. And it's certainly not giving you any information about how your body is going to feel long-term from a longevity point of view. They can be obsessive, without a shadow of a doubt. And it can stop you enjoying yourself, because if somebody invites you for a night out, but you've hit your calorie count, you're potentially going to sit there and not eat, or you're potentially not going to go at all. Austin's going, not eat, right? Or you're going to blow it, in which case then we get in this crazy, stupid compensatory mode the next day. So it can potentially lead to harmful behaviors, which can then lead to some kind of disordered eating or an eating disorder.
Yeah, that's where I love the idea of at some point you got to give yourself grace, right? If you're going to go out, you're going to eat a little bit more, but over the next couple of days, I'm going to reduce it back and I'm going to get back in balance, or however you and your body can work it. But I love what Vicky said, is figuring out what your body needs from that perspective. But I still agree. You got to.
And I think also, I think you're right in that it can be a very, very useful tool, and there's no doubt about it. But unfortunately, it's only half the story. You've still got to know a little bit more than that. So you've got to know what foods create inflammation in your body, what foods actually have certain nutrients but not much else in them, and everybody's body works differently. Samir said he likes the whole keto style of eating. It suits him and his body. Conversely, he's got 2 clients who are vegan, vegetarian. That suits their body, right? What we know is we're not all designed to eat the same diet. And there's so much information about food and nutrients out there. And everybody quotes the blue zones. But when you look at all of the countries, right, they don't all eat the same foods. Their diets are incredibly different. What means to them the most important part of food and nutrition and all that kind of stuff is usually because it's community. It's a way of getting together with people to nourish, and that's the key word, to nourish our body, brain, and that's what it's meant to be. It's not just calories, and sometimes we can just make food about calories. You're meant to enjoy it. It's supposed to be fun.
I think that's so important, Vicky. And what I'd say, just to get back to the blue zones for a second, my second favorite topic next to calories. I think
I wasn't going to go there.
one thing that they have in common is that they don't really eat a lot of ultra processed foods. So Dawn, not to pick on you, but since you mentioned the bundt cakes, for me, you mentioned that it is a bundt cake, that you referred to, yeah.
Yep.
So. Yeah, there actually is a shop like that near my parents' place in Bethesda, Maryland. And, I walk by it. When I used to walk by it 5 or 6 years ago, I used to be really tempted. I'm like, oh, there's a pull. Smelled a nice aroma coming from the shop. And now, for me, that is refined sugar, refined grains. Like, I don't consider it human food. Like, it doesn't have the least temptation for me, right?
That's good.
So if, by the way, if I eat it, my vitiligo will come back, my asthma will come back, my joints will hurt. Like the impact is going to be immediate. Like you're describing a case where you feel like you can't run because your joints aren't working, for example. I don't know your situation. I can't make medical judgments, but I can just tell you I was in the same place 5 years ago. Now I can't remember which was my bad knee. Like I literally can't remember because once I cleaned up my diet, every symptom of arthritis disappeared, right? So I'm not saying that may be the answer for you, but I'm just saying for a lot of us, once we take away the foods that aren't really foods in our diet, and once we say, okay, what foods would our great-grandparents have, just at a bare minimum, what foods would our great-grandparents have recognized as food, and just stick to that as what we're going to let in our body, suddenly all of these diseases go away.
I think we've got to be mindful that also people can sometimes only get their hands on what is available, and the availability of food in different countries vastly differs. We've got food deserts in America that us in the UK just can't get our heads around, but it's a real thing. And we've got to take into account that a lot of ultra processed foods are cheap, and if people are on a budget, then they're kind of not going to think about the nutritional value. They're just going to think, well, you know what? I just need energy to help me to do what I need to do and get through the day. So in an ideal world, we would all be able to have access to farm grown food and free range everything. But that's cloud cuckoo land for the majority of people, when we look at all of the world as a whole. And so I think understanding that we need to use some kind of tools to understand what our body does require in terms of, if we do eat more food than we require, our body's going to gain fat. We're probably not going to feel good. If we eat less, that's the same. We're probably not going to feel great. We'll lose lean muscle tissue. We might not lose as much fat as we'd like to think we would. But we've got to be mindful that we have to help people to be able to do what they are able to do in their circumstances. And I think that's the key. And having a tool like a tracker and looking at calories, but seeing them as just something that is more information to help you to make better choices from a nutrient point of view. I think that's where we need to be kind of really going with it.
I love what you guys are just saying now, if I can jump in, because just like Samir said, and Vicky, as you eat something, watch the body's reaction. Right?
Yeah.
My wife, she's lactose intolerant. She does not make the enzyme. Her body does not make the enzyme to digest lactose. So she cannot have milk and a lot of milk products, which works nice because she goes out to a restaurant. She can't have most of the desserts and a lot of the foods, right? So she has to watch that very carefully. So it would just be just like Samir said. There's probably things that I eat that cause the knee problems, right? Right now, I'm happy because as I walk 10,000 steps a day, that squishing of the juice into the joint is what I'm told. I haven't had a knee injection in 4+ years. Now there's probably something in there that how I have changed my diet to have less inflammation and less problems. So it's understanding how your body reacts to it. That's some
For
good
sure.
stuff. I love that. I think we all agree on that piece.
For sure. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I just want to pick on one thing that Vicky said that I think is true, but true with constraints, right? So I've actually lived in those food deserts outside of New York City. I've also worked on international sort of right to food campaigns in some of the poorest places in the world, in India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and elsewhere. And what I would say is pretty much everywhere you can get some kind of fresh foods, or you can arrange to have access to fresh foods at reasonable prices. And I think that there is a tendency to use the socio-political stuff, which is very real. I don't mean to downplay that, but then to say that that's the be all and end all, and people are just going to have the Twix bars and so on. And I don't think that's the case. I think there are initiatives, even in the poorest places, that people can be part of. People can build a community and have access to nutritious, wholesome, fresh, real foods. Foods that your ancestors, culturally appropriate, real foods that our ancestors were eating. So for me as an anthropologist, that's what it really gets back to. All of these diseases that we're talking about, the neurological diseases, the eating disorders, the heart disease, the whatever you want to talk about, Alzheimer's disease, they're all pretty much diseases that became common in the population in the last 50 to 100, maybe at most 120 years. And that means something weird is going on. And I think a lot of it is the food supply. Not the only thing. There's other things going on, smoking, pollution, many other things, right?
Yeah.
But just in terms of the food supply, if we can at least think in terms of, okay, what would my great-grandmother have recognized as food, including the ratios? Like, if I just have potatoes or if I just have meat, I think my great-grandmother or even my grandmother who I knew or my grandmothers, like they wouldn't have been like, dude, that's weird, man. Take some vegetables. What are you talking about, right? So like at a basic level, if you're healthy, that's a good starting point. And then Dawn's point that actually we got to tailor it for needs, etc. That's very true as well. So the starting point may be one thing, but where you end up is another. So what I would urge is, in the past couple of weeks, I've had clients who've been suffering from very weird things, from stage 4 cancer to, again, dementia and so on. And what we say is, look, just think, I know your doctors are telling you one thing, and I'm not saying ignore your doctor's advice, but in addition to your doctor's advice, think through the kind of diet that is going to support your healing journey. And that grandmother is a very good starting point for that discussion. It's not the end point, but it's a starting point. And then you eat like that for a week or two, and then you tailor it to your needs, and you say, okay, this much isn't suiting, that much isn't suiting, and maybe I need to go a little bit harder on whatever it is, the fats, maybe I need to go a little bit more harder on the carbs. You have to tailor it to your needs. But at least thinking in terms of ancestral human foods, I think that's going to get you on the right track.
Yep, good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. 2 things I do want to add to it. First off, I think one of the worst addictions in America right now is sugar. And I think that I see some trends against it, but it's tough. Everyone is we have it in our bread. We have it like in places it shouldn't be. But sugar is a huge one. And the second thing to talk to you, little Samir, my island doesn't really export anything or any kind of food. It is expensive to get healthy food here. Something that I'm trying to work on with my Insta farm and growing here, but there's not really many farms here. You might be able to get some fruits, but as far as meats or poultry or eggs or anything like that, everything is imported, which makes it expensive. So I could, and this is definitely, it's expensive to live here food wise for sure. When you're talking about, I think I just bought 2 dozen eggs for $22.
Yeah.
And that's the bulk pricing at the bulk store. So it can be, it's definitely challenging here. And this is technically America. So I could see how some even rougher areas could have a more challenging way. So I love that you're part of that, Samir, that organization getting food everywhere. And I think it's huge. And I think it was Vicky that mentioned earlier about community, getting together, eating and cooking and growing. And I think that that's huge. I mean, every community should really be growing for themselves locally. Obviously, it's not going to really happen with everything. You can't just have all the fruits and all the meats everywhere and every environment, but the more you can, the better off it'll be. And I'd love to open up a vertical farm here and grow a bunch of fresh produce down here to save a lot of money and keep it local. So hopefully that'll happen soon.
Awesome.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this up. We are so far behind. I love it, though. It's been a great episode. Lots of tips. Even the audience has been sitting there going, what the hell is going on? This is crazy awesome. But we do have to come up with a daily challenge. We got to come up with a task to improve your physical health with calories, and that task must take less than 5 minutes a day, cost $0, and be available to anyone from Madagascar to Sweden. What thoughts do you have?
I think the one thing we agreed on is when you eat something, pay attention to the reaction in your body.
Yeah,
Right?
I think so. Yeah. I think that's
mindful
easy to
eating.
do. That would be really easy for anybody to do, no matter where they are, and it doesn't take long to just notice how do I feel? Do I feel heavy? Do I feel tired, or do I feel energized? And am I
Or sick.
satisfied, or am I craving more? I think answer those questions, and it will give you a lot of information about what's happening for you.
So practically speaking, what I think that looks like is mindful eating. So just as you're sitting down to eat, feel yourself sit, meditate maybe for a few seconds, 30 seconds before you eat your meal, and then maybe set a timer for an hour from then and say, okay, how am I feeling in an hour? And how did that food agree with me? How does that sound for practical?
And maybe write down what you ate, and then maybe write down how you feel. So it could be
at the 1 hour mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be physically, it could be mentally.
Yeah.
Am I tired? Am I exhausted? Am I done with the day? Do I feel like going and doing a bunch more work? And I think that's huge. So let's do this. Okay, pick a meal. So whatever's easiest for you. If you have mornings empty or evenings empty, you pick whatever you want. Pick a meal each day. Set an hour timer. After finished, when timer goes off, write down what you ate and how you feel. I think that's actually a really good one. It's going to be fun to kind of figure out exactly. I like that. Good. That's great.
Cool.
And that's simple. Set a timer for an hour and then sit down and even just being present with your food and what you ate and your feelings, just thinking about it, I think would be very helpful to a lot of people.
I was going to say one thing that people could do, which is a challenge as well, because we do know that if we eat with distractions, we absolutely eat more. Because we're not being mindful. So eat without distractions. I think we could get people to start doing that. And again, anybody in any country, anywhere can have a go at that.
Yeah.
Switch off your devices. Don't do anything except for fully focus on your food. And I would say try and put your utensils down between mouthfuls. So you're not having it there and loaded, ready to go. Slow down.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so remove distractions, set a timer for an hour. Then after that hour, just kind of write what you had and write how you feel. And hopefully you'll start seeing some sort of trends in your life.
Beautiful.
I
Sounds
think
good.
that's a good one. Yeah, I think that's a real good one. It's going to create a lot of good benefits.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we got to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm going to put you guys backstage. We have a great daily challenge. It's going to be fun. Awesome tips. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching Millionaires Are Made. This episode was physical health and calories. We learned a lot of awesome stuff, a lot of new stuff, and it sounds like you guys did too. Be sure to tune in. We go live every Wednesday. We will have restreams going on throughout the day, so come check us out. And hopefully we'll see you on one of our future retreats.